Welcome to Through the Hurricane. I'm Kathleen Kane, the first woman elected Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Have you ever looked down and seen the pieces of your life on the floor and wondered what happened? You haven't just been through a storm, you've been through a hurricane. Sometimes we think that we'll never have joy, we'll never have love again, we'll never have a normal life again. But Through the Hurricane will teach you that the power of love and resistance and the human mind can do anything. We all experience a hurricane, but the human spirit is indestructible. This is Through the Hurricane. Let's walk through the storm together. In this episode, you're going to hear the sensational story of the power of lemonade. Just short background. Liz is the co-founder, along with her husband Jay, of Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation. Their boss is their 8-year-old daughter, Alex. Alex passed away almost 20 years ago? 21 years ago from neuroblastoma, a childhood cancer. From there, Liz and Jay have an incredible story. But first we want to get to know Liz, and more importantly, we want to get to know Alex, because I think sometimes when we look at these foundations, we as just regular people going about our daily lives, we don't actually see the human being behind them. And this human being is awesome. So you have three boys.
Yes.
One of your sons works with the foundation?
So our oldest son, after college, came back and worked for the foundation for a few years. He's not doing that anymore. He's 31, and our middle son, I think, has always been very visibly proud of Alex and what she started, but he has not worked for the foundation. He graduated college and basically headed straight to the West Coast, and he's lived in LA now for several years.
Very nice.
And then our youngest is actually, today was his last final, so he is officially a college graduate, hopefully.
Oh, fantastic.
Depending on how it went.
Yeah.
No, he's officially a college graduate, and he is currently working part-time for the foundation. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the future holds. But they're all really proud, and they have different events that they really like to come to and that are really important to them to be a part of. And I'm sure they're really proud. It's not something we talk about even, because it's just such a part of our lives. But I think it's been so positive for them to have her remembered. Yeah.
And you have her remembered with your family and within your sons, which is, Dale and Linda said the same thing. We don't want anyone to forget our children because they were here. We want their names mentioned. We want everyone to remember who they were, exactly, the good and the bad, and we want them thought about all the time. And that's, I guess I would probably say the same thing. I mean, you can't pretend someone's not here, but you're also teaching your sons that there's so many people out there that need all of that help, and there's so many other people, and you taught them compassion and empathy, or maybe Alex did and you were contributing factors, who knows. But I think that's a really important lesson for kids, and it stinks that that's the way it has to come about. But like you and I were saying before, sometimes you don't know what a bad day is until you get there, or you just don't know where life is going to bring you, which I wanted to ask you that too. So you're living in Connecticut. You're 27, Jay's 28, you have the coffee shop and you're having children and everything seems very normal, very on track.
Right, we thought we had a plan for the future.
Don't you love the plan for the future? If anyone ever told you in 20 years, this is what you would have done. Unfortunately, you're going to lose your only daughter. And from there on, you're going to end up raising almost $400 million for pediatric cancer and have one of the nation's renowned pediatric cancer foundations and be so involved in the research and the cures and the treatment. If anyone ever told you, hey, Liz, we just want to let you know, this is where you're going to be in 20 years, what would you have said?
I don't know. That's a lot to.
Yeah,
that's a lot to think about.
It's a lot to process.
I don't know. I think it would definitely have surprised me because I don't think I would have seen myself in that role necessarily. I mean, I will say, like, we weren't, and maybe it was an age thing, you know, we had a plan for like the next couple of years.
Right.
We weren't really thinking that far out in our lives, you know, at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would have thought. No one's ever asked me that question before. I definitely would have been doubtful or been really had a lot of questions.
Yeah. Or just laughed your ass off, really, like, there's no
Yeah.
way any of this is going to happen. I have a
Right,
plan.
maybe you have me confused with someone else.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Now move on
Yeah.
with your silly question. But sometimes I think about that even like with my own life. I actually laugh, like, there's no way I saw any of this coming. I would have laughed if you told me, oh, I'm sorry, Kathleen, you're going to be in jail in a couple years. Like, good luck with that. And, you know, I would have been like, I'm sorry, that's like somebody else in my family. That's definitely not me. Pick anybody but me. But now I look back and I'm like, it's so funny that we had plans, and it's so funny that we thought it was going to be a path, and it just took a turn that we would never have guessed. And I don't know. I
think, like, you don't know.
You don't know.
And I think that's a big reason why, you know, you can't judge someone for even how they react. I know they say you can't control everything that happens to you, but you can control how you react to things. I think to a certain extent you can, but when you're in the moment and everything is really hard, it's very hard to react in a way that has any really careful thought put into it, right? You almost react instinctively to many things. So I really try, and I think people should remember this, to not look at other people and think, oh, that could never be me. That would never happen to me. Because I know that life happens and things happen, and you just don't know.
You don't know
where you're going to land.
Right.
And I do think you can work really hard to get through it when you land in a place that you really don't want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's of your own fault or because something has happened to you.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You're still there, and you still have to fight or flight it, basically.
Yes, and you can work really hard, and it is work, to get yourself out of that place and move forward in a way that is positive and feels positive for you, and allows you to have a good, full, and hopefully happy life again, right? But I would never say, gosh, that would never be me.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, now we wouldn't. I think when I was younger, too, you know, I graduated law school at maybe 28, and I had this big plan. I was going to I worked in Philadelphia for a little bit. I was going to move to New York because I wanted an apartment on Park Avenue, and I was going to live out my days there, you know. And we couldn't be further from the truth. I live in the country in Pennsylvania. You know, I never thought I'd get married. I didn't get married till I was later in life, and, you know, I didn't think I'd have children. I have all of that. I didn't think I'd be divorced. That happened too. And I never saw any of this coming. I would never think I was going to do the things I was going to do or what was going to happen. But sometimes I look back and I'm like, but that's just life for me. And agreed, like, I don't judge anybody by what did or didn't happen. I don't judge them by their reaction for it. Sometimes I wish I could help them with their reaction. Like, say, I want you to know that if you power through this day, maybe tomorrow could be a little bit better. I don't want you to give up on the day, and I want you to look up in the sky and take a deep breath, because I want to do something to help you get through this day. But you can also only help people who want to be helped, and I know I clung to everything. I clung to everything. People would say, hang in there. Right? And all I could picture is that cat on the branch over the roaring waters beneath me. And I'd be like, but I'm exhausted. I can't hang on any longer. But I want people to know that you got to hang on a little longer, because just as I tell my kids, just as quickly as bad things can happen in your life, because it turned their lives upside down too, your life can turn good
Absolutely.
just as quickly.
I think I was more, I guess for good or bad, things other people said to me didn't help or hurt.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I think, I would say sometimes I thought, like if someone had told me hang in there, I would have been like, easy for you to say.
Or
Right.
I was like, what the hell does that even mean? I don't even know what that means.
Right. I
And
teased
get
my
mad
sister
inside.
because when Alex, very early in her diagnosis, she would come to the hospital to visit all the time. And one day she brought me this little, it was very, maybe she was newly diagnosed, this little rock, those little inspiration rocks that have words, and it said breathe. And she's like, oh, I have something for you. And she handed it to me. And I remember thinking, that is the dumbest gift anybody could ever give me. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you, I still have that rock.
Oh,
I have it
do?
on my windowsill. It's been there now for 25 plus years. And I think looking back on it, yes, her point was there's really nothing else. She said I couldn't think of anything else to bring you.
Yeah.
But it's a reminder to me that in those hard times, there are people there for you. Mm-hmm. But also, sometimes all you can do is literally breathe and get through the day.
Right.
And
not throw the rock at your sister.
Yeah.
Or maybe throw the rock. Maybe that would have made you feel a little better too. Who knows?
I mean, it was a nice thing she was trying to do.
Right, exactly. I brought clothes to my sister while she was staying in CHOP. And I thought she'll just want to dress like a normal human being because she started wearing scrubs every day, which we were like, you're not a doctor. You can't be wearing those every day. I'm going to bring you clothes. And to this day, she'll tell you the story that I brought her clothes that made her look like a hooker.
You wanted her dressed up in the hospital.
I wanted her to feel a little bit better, a little normal, like herself, just like herself. Not that she dresses like a hooker, but maybe she does. But to this day, when she tells the story, number one, I'm kind of like, well, they were your clothes, so I don't know what you want me to say about it. But number two, it's like you don't know what to do. And when you're in the moment, like her first thought wasn't like, this is why she's doing it. It was pretty much like, these clothes make me look like a hooker, and this is ridiculous. Why is she even doing this? Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation was formed January 18th, 2005.
Yes, that was when we officially incorporated as a nonprofit organization in the state of Pennsylvania.
Which was Alex's birthday, correct?
Yes, it was would have been her 10th birthday. 9th birthday. I would have to think about that, 9th birthday. But really it started with Alex in our front yard.
So tell me how that happened. In
June of 2000. So we had been to Philadelphia for this brand new treatment. We told her we were going to a new hospital, which is very scary. Her old hospital was very comfortable. She knew everybody. So we said they have brand new things they haven't tried on other kids. And that was the absolute truth. Mm-hmm. We got her excited to come, and we brought her older brother, and we were going to do sightseeing. And she came here in November of 1999. She was going on 4, and she was fortunate to participate in this clinical trial. She was the second child to receive it, actually. And it was a targeted therapy, which was really just like a sort of a pipe dream back then. But this was an actual targeted therapy, meaning the tumor kind of soaks it up, and without the rest of your body soaking up this treatment.
Oh, okay.
And it worked dramatically for her. She had cancer, as low as her ankle and as high as like her clavicle. She was in a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. She came out of the hospital pain-free, off pain medicine. She knew it worked. She told us it worked. So it was a big inspiration, I think, to her, even though she was so young, to suddenly feel better after feeling, really poorly for a while. And it was right after that she started talking about having a lemonade stand. And it was January, and we're in Hartford, Connecticut, so probably similar weather maybe to what it's like here in wherever we are, far up in Pennsylvania. And I kept putting her off, and we had the other kids. When it gets warmer, when you feel better. Finally, in June of 2000, she said, we still haven't had my lemonade stand. And I said, what do you want to buy so badly that you need to have a lemonade stand? And she said, I'm not keeping the money. I'm giving it to my doctor so they can help kids the way they helped me.
Oh, my God.
And I thought it was amazing. So this was 2000. Kids were not having lemonade stands for charity, that I had ever heard of, and I don't think she had ever heard of. This was an innovative idea, really.
Right.
And I think that's part of why it took off. And of course I was proud. I was surprised, because she had been talking about the stand for months and had never mentioned she was donating the money.
And held you to it, that you were having it.
Yeah, well, she said, now it's getting hot out, and we still haven't had the stand. So I said, let's do it this weekend. After we knew what it was for, she set up that weekend. I told my sister to come by because she had 4 kids at the time, and I thought, no one's going to come. It's a lemonade stand. Right. So at least she'll have her cousins here. We'll have like a little fun, party together. And as I was hanging up with her, she said, sure, I'll come by. I said, oh, by the way, she's giving the money to the hospital. And she said, oh, you're kidding me. And I said, no, only Alex will think she can cure cancer with a lemonade stand. And in fact, I told her, you're going to raise $5 or $10.
Right.
And she said, I don't care, I'll do it anyway. So my sister called the newspaper, and they printed a little story about it. And that day was, there are a lot of things that are a blur because it was a long time ago, and life was so busy with everything. But that day is so clear still in my head because it was incredible to see not just people we knew, who we knew would probably show up for her, but people who didn't know us showed up, and they were donating what they had. Someone brought like a huge bucket of change and said they had been saving for 15 years and they didn't know for what. And they wanted her to have it. Another gentleman came. He was an older man. He was probably my age now. No, he was older. He was quite, shuffling older, elderly man. And he just handed her a card and he walked away. And when we opened it, it said, your parents must be so proud of you. I know I am. And he just signed it anonymous, and it had, I think, $100 or $200 in it. Wow. And it was just this moment for our family, and I think for Alex, that we felt so inspired by the generosity of other people. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, Alex, I mentioned, she didn't really love that kind of attention. That wasn't why she was doing it. So I thought it was too much, and it was hot. Mm-hmm. And I said, what did you think, Alex? And she said, it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Oh, wow.
She raised over $2,000.
Oh, my goodness.
And I knew then that this was something that meant something to her. This wasn't cute and funny. And I had been almost like mocking it a little bit, like, haha, lemonade stand to cure cancer.
Yeah.
It meant something. At a minimum, it meant something. And she had raised $2,000. So life went on. We moved to Philadelphia. Between that and the next lemonade stand, we didn't know she planned on having another lemonade stand. Really? And now she's talking about having a lemonade stand again. And once we moved to Philly, things just really, same thing happened. Yeah. Right? I just say bigger media market
than Hartford.
So true. Somebody called the local paper, which was the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Oh, wow.
And they ran a story about it. And that got picked up, and this was pre-social media. So it got picked up the old-fashioned way, and markets all across the country were running this story.
Oh, wow.
The news came out and covered her. She was getting requests for national interviews, and
how did she like that?
She was very media savvy.
Oh.
I'm not sure how, because honestly, I think we ended up really only getting cable TV when she was very sick towards the end. But she knew how to choose. So she would do the interviews. She did not like being interviewed. I think it made her uncomfortable. There were a couple of reporters she really liked in particular. But if it was a big enough opportunity, she would go and she would do it. So she ended up on the Today Show and
oh my goodness, Oprah
and Oprah in 2004. Mm-hmm. So by 2004, she had 3 of her best years of living in terms of how she felt, and she got stronger and stronger. But the treatment she was on had stopped working. Mm-hmm. And now from 2003 stand, in which she was sick at that stand, till beginning of 2004, it was really, really hard. It was getting harder to find things to treat her with. Her cancer had metastasized to her lung and her liver, and we were told, years before that, once it got to those places, there was really no turning back. There wasn't a lot that could be done. And we were not talking about lemonade. She had already raised $100,000 through these stories, and people were sending money. It was amazing. We would get letters that said, to the lemonade girl in Pennsylvania, and they would arrive at our house.
Oh, wow.
And in that time frame, she also really set the vision for, I guess, what would become her legacy, because we had raised about $40,000. And I say we, really her. We were the helpers behind the scenes, and her brothers helped. And one day she had some checks that came in the mail, and she said, what are we doing with all this money? And I said, Alex, you know what we're doing? We're giving it to the hospital. And she said, no, what are they doing with it?
Oh, wow.
And I said very proudly, well, they're using it to research neuroblastoma, which was her cancer. Mm-hmm. And she started shaking her head. And I said, what's the matter? She said, that is so selfish. Oh. We should be giving money to all hospitals for all kids. And I remember she was like 6.5. I remember like getting a lump in my throat and not being able to speak because I felt like such a small person that Alex, who's 6 and has seen the same things I've seen, she's been in all the same places I've been in the hospital. She had to remind me that pediatric cancer is all bad. It's not about whether your child has neuroblastoma or leukemia or a brain tumor. And we should be funding for all kids so that all kids have the chance to be cured. And we really got to work with her originally in those conversations, asking about what are the gaps we can fill. So by the time 2004 came around, she'd raised all this money. We had this vision of funding outside of Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and outside of just her type of cancer.
And she was a part of all of that?
Yes, she was.
Wow. I'm glad you told me that because I actually thought that came, later on.
No, she was in some of those early meetings. Mm-hmm. And in early 2004, she was very sick, and we didn't know how long she had, and her stand was always in June, and we weren't talking about Lemonade. And she had a request for an interview, and she agreed to do it. She was on the phone. It was for a magazine, and I heard her tell them she was going to try to raise $1 million.
Oh, my God.
And I was really worried because I thought, this incredible thing, she's already raised over $100,000. She can't raise $1 million, and now she's going to be disappointed. Yeah. It was like that idea that like her last wish wouldn't possibly be fulfilled. You know, we couldn't just pick up and go to Hawaii if that's what she wanted, right? But she wanted to raise $1 million. But when we asked her how she planned to do that, she said, if everyone has lemonade stands or gives to lemonade stands, I think we can do it, and you can't argue with that. So
she's an amazing businesswoman.
She really was. So her and her dad got to work, set up a website. I think one of his college roommates could set it up for us. And we had this idea, she and he had this idea, if we had a stand in every state on the same day as her stand, we could raise $1 million. Wow. And it became this incredible story. And that's how she ended up on Oprah. And we weren't like actively reaching out trying to get, it was just the calls were coming in and the emails, and people wanted to hear about the little girl who wants to raise $1 million. And she held on. She had her last stand. There were stands in every state. We still have that event every year. It's called Lemonade Days. And by the middle of July, things were going well, and she was raising a lot of money, but she wasn't there yet. She was at like 750-ish thousand, maybe 800,000. And kind of crazy, but at the time, Volvo Cars, they were already supporting her from like 2001 on. They took out an ad. Got her on the Today Show. They just thought her story was incredible. And someone called from there, like representing the CEO, and said, how is Alex doing? And I said, she's really not doing well. And they said, how's her goal going? I said, she's going to reach it, because we were getting checks in the mail all the time, but I don't know if she's going to be here to see it. And they said, you tell her she's reached it. We're going to take her over. And she was laying on the couch playing Spider Solitaire. And I said, Alex, that was Volvo. They're going to give you the money to reach your goal. And she sat up and she just like clapped her hand once. And she just laid back down with a big smile on her face. And at the time, I was obviously very grateful she reached it. And I thought, how lucky, because she died 10 days later.
Oh, my goodness.
So really holding on.
Right.
But afterwards, I realized that's what she was waiting for.
Yes.
I believe that's what she was waiting for. And in the process, she created this incredible movement that lived on. We thought it would die with her, honestly.
Right.
Her death was reported. She was in like USA Today as a notable person who passed away in 2004. That she reached her goal was reported, and I thought this is sort of the ending for other people who don't know her.
Right.
And she reached her goal. But people kept supporting and saying, we're going to keep doing this. And that's when we started the foundation and decided to become our own foundation and just do what we could to change things for other families and other kids and continue what she started so that other families wouldn't go through what our family was going through.
Yeah. Alex sounds like she was born with this old soul, almost like, I have a lot to do. I only have 8 years to do it. I'm going to throw all my wisdom, my wit, and my business acumen at my parents. And it was almost like she had that destiny.
Yeah, I've thought about it so much. I don't know if she was born with this wisdom and strength, or her life required her to have this wisdom and strength, or maybe a combination of both. But she definitely, if you knew her, she definitely would focus on that at the end. She definitely focused on that at the end of her life. She definitely wanted to see this goal met, and she really wanted to make things different for other kids. And she wanted nothing more than to be healthy.
Yeah,
and I think
imagine.
Not having that for so long in her life made her value it so much. And she really committed everything she had to see that goal met, to make it different for other kids.
Yeah. Amazing little girl.
Yeah, she really was.
Yeah. What do you think she'd be like today?
She'd be turning 30 next month.
Oh, wow.
I think, sort of the lemonade stand professional side of Alex, I think she'd be a force for sure. She knew what she wanted, and she would go for it. And she was, you weren't getting in her way.
Right.
She also had this incredible empathy for other, especially children and animals. She loved animals. So I would imagine that she would be doing something pretty extraordinary with her life, whatever that would mean to her, whatever that would mean to her, helping people or helping animals or doing something.
Or both.
Or both.
Right.
Yeah.
I could see her having a big animal sanctuary while she's fighting pediatric cancer during the day, Yeah,
I remember once she talked about when she grew up, she and her younger brother, who's also an animal lover, Eddie, were going to have a whole bunch of animals because we had one dog. And I have a lot of allergies, and we had one dog. And then somebody gave her a cat, so we had a cat and a dog. But they were going to have a whole bunch of animals. And he was like, "Oh, and I can live with you." And she was like, "No. There's not going to be room for you because I'm going to have too many animals." And then she said, "And I might want a family of my own."
Oh.
And his little heart broke.
Yeah. Oh.
But he has his own life, and he does have a bunch of animals.
Oh, that's fantastic. The foundation that you started, that Alex started, and then that you continued a couple of months, you incorporated after Alex's death, really focuses on research and helping with travel expenses, but mostly research. Is that right?
So we, as a foundation, we continued sort of that vision of Alex, in that we are primarily focused on finding new cures for children with cancer. And we say new because there's two parts to it. There are way too many children who still really aren't promised a cure. They have cancers that are either incurable, or far too many children do not survive them. And then the other part of it is the way we are getting most children to a cure is extremely toxic. And 95% of childhood cancer survivors are going to grow up with some sort of side effect, largely from the treatments that were used to cure them. We've got to do better. So we're focused on funding research all over North America, and we fund a little bit in Europe with some collaborative projects here in the US. Focus on the hardest to cure pediatric cancers, figuring out why we can't cure all kids, and trying to get to the day where we can, and that childhood cancer is not a life-threatening diagnosis.
I read somewhere that half of children who have cancer are getting treatment through clinical trials. Is that about right?
You hear different statistics, but a high number of kids will end up on some sort of clinical trial while they're going through treatment. And that's both a positive, because it means we're learning and we're trying to do better for kids with cancer. But it also speaks to how much work we still have to do, that we don't have it figured out yet.
Right, exactly. Clinical trials, I can't even imagine what this what it costs. Are they supported by insurance clinical trials? Are they supported by private foundations such as Alex's Lemonade Stand? How do people actually pay for things like this? How do parents?
It's very, we have a complicated healthcare system, and when you have a diagnosis that's complicated like childhood cancer, all of the problems, are exacerbated. We fund everything from early innovative science, so it's an idea that could potentially lead to a cure down the road, all the way through to clinical trials, and we try to fill those gaps, all along the way. The clinical trials is a huge gap. They are funded in many different ways. So the Children's Oncology Group, which is sort of the collaborative association, I don't know what they officially are, that works together at hospitals across the country to put together the protocols to make sure if your child is diagnosed here in Scranton, that there's the same protocol and the same path to a cure as in Philadelphia or California or wherever.
And the information can travel from group to group to group, from here to California.
Yeah, so they work collaboratively. They also work collaboratively on clinical trials. And funding is always an issue. So a lot of their funding comes from the federal government. So I know that's in the crosshairs right now. There's foundations like ours that contribute. And then as far as payment goes, it really depends on the trial. So some trials, they can bill insurance for some aspects of it. Some insurance won't cover some trials.
And is that where private foundations kind of pull up the slack on that? If insurance won't cover all of it, will the private foundations kind of step in and help fill the gap to make sure that it's funded?
Yeah, I think if your child can get into a trial, hopefully most of the time it can be paid for, but it's complicated. This is why we have a full-time resource navigator on staff, because families reach out to us with a variety of things that they need for their children or themselves or their siblings in terms of support while their child is going through cancer. A lot of times it is financial or medical costs, and her job is really to connect them to resources that can help them.
Yeah.
But the hospitals, these pediatric oncologists and their teams are incredible. So they really try to figure out if there is a way, they will get it done. The bigger issue, I think, is getting trials open because of the costs.
Right.
And for pediatric oncology, it's more than 20 different disease types. Right, we've already mentioned neuroblastoma. There's different types of leukemias. There's different types of brain tumors. There's different types of bone cancers, muscle cancers,
and they all have to be treated differently.
Yes,
right?
and not only that, but even within that, you might need to treat every one child different than another child. So there's no one answer that anyone's going to find,
right.
And individually. Even though in the world I'm in, and I think everybody knows somebody whose child has had cancer or survived cancer or passed away from cancer, it's still relatively rare in terms of getting the interest of pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to have a successful drug that works in a pediatric cancer, the cost of developing it and bringing it to market is going to be much greater than the profit.
Yeah.
So the private model of drug development really doesn't work for children with cancer. So they're relying very heavily on foundations like ours and federal funding and donors to work together to try to make it happen. But there's never enough. There's never enough funding.
I read that childhood cancer is the #1 disease-related cause of death of children in the United States.
It is more than the next 5 combined.
It's incredible to me. And then of that, childhood cancers are funded at about a 5% rate of, say, I think the government spends, I'm going to say $5 billion, something like that. It might be 5, might be 50. But whatever the government puts into it, childhood cancer only gets between 5 and 8% of that. And it is considered despite those low numbers, that low funding number, childhood cancer is still considered a major public health risk to children. So we have then you break the numbers down a little bit more. Some are between, it's a moving target. 1,500 and 2,000 children a year die of childhood cancer, and that covers all types. That blows my mind. It blows my mind that 5 to 8% of all of the money that goes to cancer research goes to children. And then it makes me angry, number one. I feel like going outside and screaming, what the hell are we doing here? Why aren't we putting everything into it? It's amazing to me that happens, and I guarantee you feel the same way. Sometimes you must feel like pulling your hair out, saying, why aren't we getting the attention and the help that we need to fight these cancers? These children have a lot to grow up for. They have families, they have their own lives. How could we look at, on your website, Reese, this adorable little boy with dark hair, he's so sweet looking. How do you look at Reese and say, yeah, I'm sorry, Reese, but it's not worth this to put a drug out onto the market, or we're going to put it towards adult cancers because it's more profitable for us. And I don't understand how we look at that child and say that, because I know if there was one child in a burning building, you'd run in and save them, right? Absolutely. If there were 2,000 in that building, our entire community would run in and save them. This is the exact same thing.
It's extremely frustrating to those of us as parents and those of us in the community, all of us in the community, that yes, historically, regardless of administration of the National Cancer Institute research budget, historically less than 5% goes to study pediatric cancer. And yet they're so reliant on it because of the lack of private sector interest in developing drugs specifically for children with cancer, relying very much on foundations like ours. I mean, we are currently the largest independent funder of pediatric cancer research in the U.S., meaning we fund at all different hospitals. We're not connected to one like St. Jude or Children's Hospital Philadelphia. And that's incredible, right? Yeah. And I'm not saying that as something to brag about. I actually think it's shameful that we're the largest and we raise about $30 million a year.
Right.
Because I think we know, it's not even thinking, we know there are solutions. We have seen how funding can find cures for children with cancer. But yet the frustration that the funding isn't there is something that every child who's diagnosed has to feel the consequences of.
Has to sit, thank God they're children and they don't sit back and say, but their parents probably do.
Oh, their parents definitely do.
Yeah, totally. Why doesn't anyone care that much about my child?
Even the fact that I remember at one point when Alex was so sick and she wanted to reach this goal, I had so much anger that she was spending her last months worried about raising money for cancer research through a lemonade stand because the grown-ups in the world weren't taking care of it.
It took a 7-year-old to take care of it, at least on your end. Now, you can brag because to date, you have raised around $400 million for cancer
Getting close
research.
to $400 million, yes.
I mean, that's awesome. That's what makes you cool, Liz. I'll
take it if that's what makes me cool.
Okay. That is an unbelievable amount of money. Now, we're cynical in this world. And so I want you to tell people what exactly you do with that. And I know it's aimed at research. You have a board that kind of goes through these research doctors and make sure you pick the right ones and spend the money in all of the right way. Tell us what the greatest breakthrough that you have seen so far, that you have said to yourself, this was worth every penny, this was worth every ounce of energy we've spent.
That's tough. There's been some phenomenal breakthroughs. So I would say if I have to pick one.
Don't just pick one. Tell us if you
Well, I think immunotherapy has really changed the landscape for certain types of pediatric leukemia and has increased the survival rates directly because of the effectiveness of it. And this is the kind of therapy we want. It's basically, using your body's revving up your body's immune system to kill the cancer. And that shows us that there are solutions, and there are solutions that are less toxic for children long term. So that, I think, has inspired the entire community to not just think about immunotherapy, because that's not the only answer, but to think about all of the better ways that we can approach curing cancer. On a personal level, I would say, there's been a discovery for neuroblastoma, even though Alex didn't set out to cure her own cancer, that was discovered by a researcher out of Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And she made the discovery, and she got one of our grants to help her take this discovery of this mutation in some aggressive neuroblastomas. There was already a drug that existed, luckily, because I've already talked about how hard it is to develop drugs for kids with cancer, for some adult cancers. And we gave her funding, we call them REACH grants, to very quickly get that discovery into a trial for children with cancer. And she was able to do it, and in less than 2 years, the trial opens, and the first children start coming to her who have this mutation in their neuroblastoma. And one of the girls we met, her name is Edie. We met her because the doctor was like, this girl reminds me so much of Alex. She came at a similar age. She had almost looked like her, but with blonde hair, and Alex had very dark hair. Same kind of personality. She had little leg braces when she arrived, the same as Alex. And just like Alex, nothing had worked. And so their family had traveled to Philadelphia. But their path was very different than ours. She was able to get into this trial. And this treatment, which was a pill that she took at home, with very few side effects. In fact, her mom said, we just assumed it wasn't working because she seemed so fine. Within a month, melted her cancer away.
Oh, wow.
That little girl is now driving.
Oh.
And her family keeps in touch. We've met her many times. And there's been many more kids with that same story.
Right.
So that was already amazing enough. And getting to meet these families and hug the moms and cry and laugh and see how these kids are growing up. And that family in particular said they always put a candle for Alex on her birthday cake. So she's living
grateful
in some way through her. But the sort of thing to me that showed the real progress was we had Alex's 25-year-old tumor sequenced, and we learned that her tumor had that same mutation. Oh. So were she diagnosed today, and we had that information, which we didn't even know, the technology wasn't even there, when she was diagnosed. Never mind all the discoveries and the way they can treat it. She would have, her entire life from before she turned 1 would have been different. We wouldn't have done 6 surgeries, radiation therapy, years of chemotherapy, because we would know it wasn't going to work.
Right.
And she would have this pill that she could take that essentially very likely would have melted her cancer away. She wouldn't have been paralyzed from the surgery because we most likely wouldn't have had the surgery done. I can't separate sort of the beauty of what came from her life from that, because who knows if she would have started her lemonade stand, cancer may have been something she didn't remember because she was so little when it happened. But to me, it showed real progress, and that with funding, we can cure children. And the fact that we were finally able to figure out why we couldn't cure Alex and potentially how we could cure her was just such a full circle moment for us. Right. And I was, at first when we found out, I'm not going to lie, I was a little angry because I thought, well, what does that get her? It's too late for her. But of course, very quickly flipped to, this is the best possible outcome we could have at this point, is to know that her life could be different now. Yeah. And that's progress.
That's progress. You're right. And, kind of the dichotomy we say between that your child had to die for all of this to come about is so bittersweet. You would have done anything just to have her back, but she couldn't stay, and now something great became of it. I honestly feel like, I'm sure you feel the same way, I feel like Alex is still in charge of this lemonade stand.
I think so. I mean, there are many times where something happens over time. She's so, I think of her all the time, still, obviously, and she's such a presence in our life through the foundation. But over time, for me, those like moments of connection get where you really feel connected, like a presence, have become fewer and farther between. But there's still moments where, something happens at just the right time and you think, wow, that was good luck. And then in my mind, I think that was the magic of Alex. And it's usually something to do with the foundation.
Right.
And I think she's definitely influencing and having a huge part in the success.
Still a force.
Any of the cures that are being used today for children with cancer at one point came from research. That's how we find cures. And we're not going to get to the day where cancer is not a life-threatening disease without more research. And we can get there.
Yes. And that all of the money that Alex started raising, and that you and your family and Jay, and I saw you have 25,000 volunteers, which is incredible. It's an incredible testament. But all of that money goes either towards helping the families get to where they need to go, buying a washer for certain things, and also going into this research and helping these clinical trials get up and moving and finding these cures. All of that money goes there. Is that right?
Yes. So we fund research, and we also have some family support programs. I always say they're a small but mighty part of what we do. We have a team that helps families get to these trials. We pay up front. We'll book the airline for them. We'll help them find a hotel, give them gas cards. We have a sibling support program. Obviously, that's very close to our hearts as well, with having 3 boys. And we have a photography program that provides these beautiful professional photo packages to families. And we have a lot of educational materials for families through our childhood cancer guides.
Amazing.
As well as a resource navigator.
Now, the new year is coming up. You don't look to me like somebody who makes New Year's resolutions.
Oh, I do. I don't call them
them
resolutions, though. They're
what
just
do you call them?
sort of ideas for January.
Make it loose. Don't commit to a resolution. Tell me something that is exciting on the horizon for childhood cancer in terms of research.
I think, the way we're studying it now is in and of itself exciting. Immunotherapies, they're looking at like protein degraders, which, believe me, last science class I took was biology in 9th grade. Or last biology class, but they're trying to figure out how to shut down these cancers without throwing chemotherapy and radiation therapy at kids. So there's many exciting
that's
ideas and innovations happening. Yeah, it really is amazing.
Yeah, and you have bright hope for the future that someday we'll get to the point where, number one, we're not struggling to fund cancer research for children, I would assume. And number two, kids aren't dying at the rate that they're dying.
The survival rates since she was diagnosed have gone up considerably, from about 75% to 85%. There's no reason to think we can't keep doing that. And then I do have to say, globally, childhood cancer is an even larger problem because we have, if not the highest, equal highest survival rates for pediatric cancer in the United States. And those survival rates are flipped at worst, and often less than 50% in middle and low income countries. So there's a lot of work to be done there as well.
There's a lot of work to be done. I hope you get a lot of rest, because I feel like you're having a big year coming up. And just one quick thing, besides donate.
Yes.
What can we do?
Well, we're always looking for people to have lemonade stands.
Mm-hmm. Well, sign us up.
It's pretty easy. It's just what you think it is. You can sign up on our website. It's free. We even send you like a little kit to get you started. We have events. We have schools we're trying to get involved. If you have access to a school or a child in a school or you're a teacher, we're really trying to get Alex's message. And we have a children's book. And we have a lot of teachers' plans for schools. There's countless ways you can get involved. My personal favorite, and I know you remember too, is the One Cup Club.
Yes.
So people give whatever they want to give monthly, and we're trying to build that program because that is money we can count on, that we know we can then put back into the projects.
Right.
And we have 2,000 members right now, but we're trying to continue to grow that.
That's fantastic. And I do love it because you do send updates all of the time.
Yes.
And that's how I saw the picture of Reese. And I saw Evie. Is that the way you pronounce her name?
Edie.
Edie,
Yes.
right. That's where I saw her too. And I think it's important. You run the structure of your foundation. You run such a great structured foundation because we see where our money is going. We're in on the clinical trials and what's coming up. You let us know all of the breakthroughs. You let us know the struggles. I mean, I feel a part of it. And
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I mean that, and that's important to me. And just to look into their eyes is, it's a real light the fire underneath you. So it means a lot to someone. And I mean, my God, I give $33 a month.
Thank you.
You treat me like I give, thousands of dollars a month, which I appreciate because I do. Hopefully we can get more people involved. And I do happen to know 2 teachers, my brothers, who maybe we can, talk to them
if
about.
they can even just make an intro at their schools. We'll take it from there.
Well, listen, I think that we will browbeat them into doing that. So.
Okay, that works too.
It's amazing.
We're very lucky.
Yeah, your story is amazing. I mean, I think your family's amazing.
Thank
Alex
you.
is just something else. And the work that you do, I can't thank you enough, honestly. I mean, you never know whose baby it's going to be next or whose child it's going to be next.
Sadly, that's very true.
It is very true. And I thank God that there are people like you out there who don't just sit back and watch it happen, who get involved. Even 21 years later, you're
Thank
still
you.
here.
I appreciate that.
Many more to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Well, that wraps up another episode of Through the Hurricane. I'm Kathleen Kane. We're so grateful to have Liz Scott here from Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation. Please check out our website where we will have the song of the episode because every storm needs a playlist. Liz, you'll have to come up with something for the song. Did Alex have a favorite song?
Oh, she had a number of favorite songs. We both really liked Lovely Day.
I love that song as well.
Yeah, me too.
Check out the song Lovely Day. Also, please check out Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation. Think about becoming One Cup at a Time member. And this summer, let's all have our lemonade stands. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Through the Hurricane. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.